The 16th annual event saw changes not only in the conditions, but the structure of the event as well. Previously, the Pipeline Masters played a major role in the race for world champion, but extreme conditions and a couple major injuries prompted a reevaluation, and the Masters was restructured as a specialty event carrying no rating points. 24 pipeline specialists were selected by a panel of media professionals and given invitations. The invitational concept survived for several years until, by popular demand, it was returned to its status as a full-rated World Circuit event. Nearly 120 competitors over 5 days of competition will vie for the coveted title, 1,000 points, and just under $30,000 in cash. So find a good seat and settle in for the 16th annual Marui Offshore Pipeline Masters. Welcome to Hawaii's North Shore and 6 miles of the best surf in the world. Today, beautiful Ehukai Beach Park provides the crowds and the judges with a spectacular view of the competition. People arrive by all modes of transportation and find their places along this fabulous stretch of beach. It's the ultimate surfing arena, allowing the crowd to participate in the excitement just a few yards offshore. You see, here at the Pipe, the crowd naturally responds with cheers for the great rides and moans for the bone-crunching wipeouts. To get some insight in how the competitors feel about the pipeline, we asked 4-time world champion Mark Richards what he thought.
Well, I think it's really dangerous. Most of the surf spots over here are relatively safe, like Waimea Bay and Sunset. Even if the surf's 15 to 20 feet, you're not dealing with a sharp coral bottom there. The water's really deep. Whereas Pipeline is probably the most dangerous surf spot in the world due to the size of the wave, the power of the wave, and also the reef on the bottom. Like last year, I had an accident the day before the Pipeline Masters where I went headfirst into the bottom, and I hit so hard that I'm probably very lucky to be here today. And the bottom out there there's boulders and there's crevices and there's coral and there's all sorts of stuff, and you have a 10-foot wave with a few thousand pounds of pressure landing on you and driving you into the bottom. If you're unlucky, you can die, and a couple of people have died surfing this place.
The stands are in place, the crowd settles in, and 113 competitors prepare for the event to start. The trials will be held over a course of 2 days and 3 rounds of competition. Those who qualify will meet the seeded surfers, some of the best in the world, in the main event. Let's take a look at some of the highlights of the first 2 rounds of qualifying competition.
After that, we looked at approaching. As we said, we still have been building all morning. Outside, so we can get approaching. Chris was watching around trying to find the right lineup. So 2 minutes, let's see if this guy can get in time frame. All the way to this side. And quicker than next season, right to head on home.
Ryan pounded severely. Hawaii is very real. Salmon actually just got top athlete. That's one of the problems of that section of pipeline down toward off the wall. There's a sudden tilt the way it hits, drops out the bottom, fall out of the sky.
Yeah, we count down. 1 minute to go. Probably to California. And off we go.
After a total of 33 heats, there were some surprising developments. First was that it was to be a lefts-only contest, an advantage, of course, for the Goofyfoots. Secondly, during the event, talk centered around not so much who was making it through the four-man heats, but who was not. Let's take a look at some of those that survived, as well as those that were not so lucky. Ronnie lives out here on the North Shore and was runner-up in last year's event. He advanced through rounds 1 and 2. Nothing surprising there. He's a goofy footer, and he loves it here at the pipe. Hawaii's Marvin Foster, another strong Hawaiian goofy footer, also knows this break well and uses its power to the max. Scott Farnsworth of California is one of the surprisingly strong showers. He's a rookie on the Pro Tour and has won each of his heats decisively. Another North Shore resident is Mickey Nielsen. He placed well last year and ended up with the wave of the day. While he's not a regular on the World Tour, he's a regular at the Pipeline Masters. Dane Kealoha is a local favorite and a previous winner of this event. He came on strong and showed how it's done backside. Rookie Robbie Page puts in a dazzling performance and stuns everyone with his ability in the tube. This Australian is as radical out of the water as he is in. Buzzy Kerbox, a prominent model for Ralph Lauren, has placed in the finals in years past. Surprisingly, he can't find the positioning necessary and does not make it through the trials. New Zealand's Alan Byrne was one of those specialists chosen in previous events to receive an invitation. Usually, he provides us with nothing short of spectacular tube riding bravado. This year, the waves don't seem to cooperate, and he goes down in the second round. Johnny Boy Gomes shows his three-point stance and gets covered, but it's not enough. While veteran Buttons Kaluhiu Kalani gets equally deep, but no exit and no advancement. And Chris Adams gives us an example of how difficult it really is. Let's take a look at how things shaped up for round 3 of the trials. Jerry Lopez, more commonly known as Mr. Pipeline, reaches back into his bag of tricks and pulls off an excellent showing in the 3rd round.
See Lopez, I think, in the white jersey. Looks like he's got a chance at it.
All right, Jerry Lopez showing the style. They won the Pipeline Masters 2 years in a row.
It will be 2 Australians beating out a couple of Hawaiians in the 2nd heat of the 3rd round. The big man, Simon Anderson, will find enough, even in the smaller waves, to win the heat.
I'll see Tim Ryan in second, and the winner, Simon Anderson of Australia. Simon looked good.
Tim Ryan puts in a good showing and advances along with Simon. Dane Kealoha won this event in 1983, beating out Buzzy Kerbox and the brothers Ho, Michael and Derek, in the finals. Dane has been off the tour for the past couple years, but won't miss an event in his own backyard. Another North Shore local, Mickey Nielsen, takes 2nd place and will make it into the main event. 1984 champion Joey Baran also wins a place in the main event. You might wonder why these past champions have to work their way up through the trials. Because the event is fully sanctioned and rated, the surfers are positioned based on their current accumulated point standings. Round 3 allows for the seeding of all past winners, but they still must earn their position in the main event. The sponsors also retain a couple of seeded positions. Here in Heat 5, Nobumasu Imasu, sponsored by Offshore Japan, works his way into the main event along with Marvin Foster. Marvin lives out Makaha way, but spends most of his time surfing the North Shore. Heat 6 features California's Scott Farnsworth, who gets a little encouragement, and Vita David from Tahiti. Although the waves are smaller during the 3rd round, these guys get everything they can out of them.
Seen him for a while, but boy, he was looking good.
Vita gets vertical a couple of times here and follows up with a good snap. Tony Moniz is known as the gentleman of the sport. He spent several years traveling the circuit and always shows well in his home waters. Tony beat out Doug Silva and Chewy Reyna to join Brian McNulty in the main event. McNulty is impressive in the smaller surf, showing good judgment and excellent positioning. Rookie David Eggers shows his stuff in Heat 8. He's another of those surprising young Californians. He finds his slot and advances. Along with David, the comical Robbie Page of Australia goes on to the main event. The judges' stand is moved down the beach for the 1st round of the main event. With 13 heats to complete by day's end, the officials get right to it. In the 1st heat of the main event, Tim Ryan in green takes 2nd place. The waves are small, but there's a promise of increasing size as the day wears on. Brian McNulty in red puts things away nicely with a little cover-up and takes 1st. Japan's Takao Kuga can't find the waves and is eliminated, along with California's Brad Gerlach. All eyes are riveted on Jerry Lopez as he leaves his house for his heat. Jerry is a popular guy here and has done well so far. Everyone hopes he can continue through even though the smaller conditions don't favor him. Up against hot Californians like Scott Farnsworth and Mike Parsons, his job will be doubly difficult. Jerry catches a rail and goes down for the count. Joining Jerry on the beach is Kelly Gibson in yellow. Making it through the second round is Mike Parsons in white and Scott Farnsworth. Checking equipment and making final preparations for their heat, each surfer harbors private thoughts. Australian James "Chappie" Jennings makes his way into the competition arena. Local boy Lance Ho'okano in green does some styling, but just not enough of it. And even using strategy, Chappie Jennings won't make it through. The young Californian David Eggers positions himself into the next round along with Australian Mitch Thorson in white. There's been a big crowd through each day of the competition, all anxious to see their favorite surfers and hear the results. Winning Heat 4 is Australian Robbie Page in red. Gary Green of Australia finds an exit, but it's not enough. He'll take fourth place and be eliminated. Tahiti's Vida David, though impressive, takes third. It will be Robbie Page taking the heat, and Matt Keckley following him into the second round. Californian Ted Robinson looks confident as he heads out for his heat. A nice flowing style, but he seems to lack that aggressive will to win. While Simon Anderson in red put himself right in the pocket and takes first place. Nobumasu Imasu is just overpowered by Pipeline, and that's all we'll see of him. Jim Hogan of California put in a good performance and makes it through. The girls don't seem to distract Hawaii's Mickey Nielsen. Well, just for a moment. Australian Bryce Ellis appears to pull it off, and he does this time. But keep in mind, the results are based on the best 4 out of 10 waves. Also looking stylish is Graham Wilson in yellow. As Tony Moniz takes off, you'll be surprised that the two surfers wiping out took the heat. Surfing is a subjective sport, but the judges panel is hand-picked for their expertise. Veteran Robert Bartholomew holds true to his strategy. Unfortunately, the waves don't cooperate, and he's knocked out in the first heat. While 1984 champion Joey Buran goes on to win his heat. The likable Australian Terry Richardson, affectionately known as Richo, pulls in second place and a berth in the second round. Trialist Aaron Napoleon in green fought through 3 rounds of the trials to be knocked out in the main event. Dane Kealoha sets his mind towards victory and puts in a performance to match. Sheer determination pushes Chris Frohoff of California into second place and the next round. These guys had their work cut out for them, going against the powerful Hawaiian Marvin Foster in green and 4-time world champion Mark Richards. That will wrap up the first round of the main event. We've seen the winning trialists matched up against what's known as the back 16. Those advancing then go up against the big guns in the top 16. Let's take a look at the guys making it through the second round and on to the quarterfinals. Hawaii's Derek Ho took the first heat, followed by Australian Glenn Winton, putting down Terry Richardson and Tony Moniz.
On the first Triple Crown events for sale.
Chris Frohoff and Shane Horan put some moves on Barton Lynch and Joey Baran.
They're going to produce a television show on this event as they have for the last 2 years. They produce great shows with that. Thanks to Jim Hayes and Company.
No surprises in Heat 3 of the second round. Martin Potter, along with Sean Thompson, takes first and second. Scott Farnsworth and David Eggers are left out in the cold. A major upset in the next heat pushes Tom Curran and Mike Parsons through. Mike Ho gets an interference call and can't make it back. Mitch Thorson pulls out all the stops to shut out Mickey Nielsen and Dave Parmenter in Heat 5. Joining Mitch is defending Pipeline champ Mark Occhilupo. Brian McNulty puts away seated surfer Wes Lane and fellow trialist Robbie Page. Gary Elkerton takes second.
Release.